Sorry, I'm late.
What are you doing?
Oh, be right back. Had to get the scissors.
Why?
Print then cut.
That's the feature of Design Space now.
Oh. Hi, and welcome to Crafts by Two. I'm George.
And I'm Ken. We've been given the opportunity to preview the next release of Cricut Design Space, which includes a number of great features, like Print then Cut, plus some other improvements to Design Space. With Print then Cut, you'll be able to do things as simple as this girl from the Snow Angels cartridge.
Or things as complex and customized as this Iron Man card in 3D. Ooh, 3D. So in this video, we're going to give you a quick overview on what Print then Cut really is.
Plus show you all the other features. We're going to have other videos that go into more detail. This one is just kind of an overview. This update is just an update to the plugin and an update to your firmware. That's all you need to do. All the Cricut Explorers can take advantage of these features right after those updates.
So sit back, relax, put your feet up, and get ready to be blown away.
After updating your Cricut Design Space plugin and the firmware on your Cricut Explore, the first thing you want to do is go through the calibration steps. The calibration process is where you're going to be going through steps to have your Cricut Design Space software and your Cricut Explore know just where your images are going to line up so it can cut them out perfectly. To start calibration, go up to the user menu at the top and select Calibration from the menu. A dialog will walk you right through everything, and the customer support information is right there. So if you have any questions, you'll want to contact Cricut support. They're wonderful people and they're very, very helpful. So don't be afraid to reach out and contact them for support. It's really the best way to get things solved quickly. Just like the introduction text says, they're going to guide you the entire way. So you can work your way through the steps to calibrate your machine. We'll have a whole separate video on how to calibrate your machine. We want to make sure that we're doing quick, simple videos so you can get the information you need when you want it. It'll be a part of our Print then Cut playlist, and we have a link right here to jump to that video. A lot of the images that you might be familiar with from the Imagine cartridges are now recategorized as printables. Here I have the little girl from the Snow Angels cartridge, and you'll notice over on the layers tray there's now a little printer icon next to that item to let me know that this is going to print. Clicking on the thumbnail in the layers table, you'll notice that I can't change the printable over to anything else. It stays on print. Next to it, I have a dinosaur from the Cricut cartridge. This is a regular cuttable image. You can see in the layers that I've got the scissors next to it. I can make any individual layer printable if I wanted to, and now that's going to print and cut instead of just cutting it out of the paper. There's a great new feature though that I can take any layered image and make it into a print then cut image. With the image selected, I come over to the layers tray and there's a new button called Flatten. If I click this, it changes the dinosaur into a printable image, and it gives me a shadow, but that's hidden and won't cut. Now, this is going to be one single print then cut image. You can also upload your own images into Design Space to use with Print then Cut. This is a circular image that I've already made outside of Design Space, and I brought in because I'm going to be using this to make canning labels in another one of our videos shortly. I had to make this circular outside of Design Space because right now the images will be cut out exactly how you bring them in. If I had left this as a square, Design Space is going to print and cut a square. As you can see, Print then Cut gives you so many options on how to use your images in new and exciting ways. Let's walk through each of them quickly. Printables are a new category of image in the new Cricut Design Space with Print then Cut. Many of them are the former Cricut Imagine cartridges. To see the printables, go to Insert Images, then use the filter on the side. You can then select Printables, and your images will be filtered down to just the printable images. Printables are called out in the listing with the little printer icon on the image. Here's the snow angel that I used previously. I'll select her and insert her into the document. There she is. You can resize her like any other normal Cricut image. You can drag, or with the image selected as a layer, use the Edit button on the toolbar. With Print then Cut, when you click the Go button, and this can take a while as it's preparing your image, depending upon how many images or how complicated the images are, so just be patient. On the map preview, there's just a few changes for Print then Cut. You'll see that on the preview, it's showing the registration lines that are going to be added to the image for the Cricut Explore to be able to cut this out. You'll also notice on the bottom that it says 8.5 by 11 material. Currently, you can only print to 8.5 by 11. The other change with Print then Cut is the settings menu. Tapping on this, you'll see that there's a checkbox for bleed, and bleed gives you a little bit of an extra bit of color around your image. You might be able to see in the video on the mitten here, there's kind of the white line where her original mitten is, and then a little bit more color. This is to help ensure that if your calibration is off just a little, that you don't have any white area on your cut image. And then the other big change is Print and Continue, because it's going to print out this image. This print dialog is going to look different depending upon your web browser and your operating system. Right now I'm in Chrome on a Mac, but everything's set up and ready to go, so I'm just going to tap Print. And this is going to print out for us. While that's printing, I'm going to select my device, because I'm using an Explore with Bluetooth, and let that make that connection. One change with this dialog for Print then Cut is there's a Reprint Page button. And in this case, I printed on regular paper instead of cardstock. I forgot I wanted to do that. So I'm going to reprint the page. And for cardstock on our printer, we're using the rear bypass tray instead of going through our regular print tray. I'm going to have to switch to print using the system dialog because this dialog I get in Chrome doesn't let me change our paper feed or those basic settings. So I'm going to print using system dialog, and it brings up the traditional Mac OS X dialog. Now I can switch over to our print settings and tell it I want it to come from the paper feed slot. Here we have the printout of our Snow Angel little girl on cardstock, and I'm just going to put this down on my mat. And this is an older mat that I've well used, so I'm just going to cover this up and use my extra tool here to really smooth things down to make sure that my paper's going to stay on the mat. I don't want it popping up while it's calibrating and cutting. Now I can just load it. Make sure I switch my dial over to cardstock. and press go. First, it's scanning the page to find the calibration marks, and this is where the light that everybody saw when the Explore was released comes into play. And it's done. So I can click Finish in Design Space and pull our cut off the mat. And there's our cutout image. And you can see where the bleed left a little bit of color on the paper as it was cut out. So that way, on our cut image, there's no white edges, except at where there should be a white edge. And this got some of the really fine detail on the tassel, on her hat, and on their boots, and the fringe, the fur on the boots, and the fringe on the hat. It really picked that up, and you get all the detail that you've grown to love the Cricut Explore for. As we mentioned, another great feature of Print and Cut is you can take any layered cuttable image and make it into a printable image. Let's get that dinosaur again from Create a Critter. Here he is. So just like any other image, I'll select it from my library and insert it into my document. On the Layers panel, you can see that this is a regular cuttable image. It's got the scissors icon next to it, so I know that if I went ahead with the Go button, I'm going to be cutting this out of paper just like I used to. You can change individual pieces by clicking on its icon on the Layers panel and then choosing the line type. So now with Print and Cut, I have Print as a choice, along with Cut, Write, and Score. If I select that, this one layer is now going to be printable. It's actually going to print that purple color and cut out that shape. But the exciting thing is I can do this for the entire image. If I undo that work, with the grouped image selected, I have all the layers chosen on the Layers panel. There's a new button at the top called Flatten. If I flatten this image, this is now one image that will print out and cut in the outline. Flattening this image also gave me a shadow. It's hidden right now, but on the layers, if I unhide it, I could also cut out a cute little shadow to go right with this printable image. So that way, maybe I'm saving a little time. With Print and Cut, I still have the ability to cut a layered mat to go behind it, and still give it that kind of crafty layered look. I've taken the dinosaur back to being a cuttable image, because I wanted to show you a little trick. Maybe I don't want a purple dinosaur. That's a little too Barney. I want something a little more green. I can take the cuttable layers and change the colors just like we've always been able to. Now I can choose this, make those a little more yellow, and let's get its belly kind of brown. So there, I was able to change the colors, and now I can select it again and flatten it, and now it's going to print and cut in those colors. I didn't have to stick with the purple that was used with the original image. This way you can customize any cuttable file to be a printable image in pretty much any color you can think of to fit your project. The last way you can work with images with the new Print and Cut feature in Design Space is uploading your own images. You've been able to do this before, but previously you ended up with a black outline that could be used only to cut a shape from that image. Now you're able to upload the image itself and print and cut it. If we go to Upload Image, it's pretty much the same process you're used to. You'll use the basic upload because you're uploading a JPEG, GIF, PNG, or BMP bitmap file. And for the most part, it's very similar to how you used to do things. Step 1 is to select, so continue to step 1, and I can browse and choose a photo on my computer. I get the preview, and then you want to match your uploaded image. For images that you're going to want to print out, you'll want to use the Complex Images option. On step 2, it'll let you clean up your image, but in this case, you want to just use the image as is. If I keep zooming out, I can see that this is a square image. And continuing to step 3, the new feature here with Print and Cut is there's a checkbox to preserve the original image within the shape. This is recommended for printing. So this means it's going to preserve these peppers as a background in this square shape. Now I have that square image and I can insert it into my design. Currently with Print and Cut, you can't cut an image in a new shape. It'll always be the shape that you imported it as. We have a video coming up where we show you how you can use an image editor to prepare your images outside of Design Space and use transparency to get shapes cut out in Design Space. So look for that one, and we'll put a link here when it's ready. I'm going to share with you some of the differences with the Weld tool between the previous version of Design Space and the new version. Here we are in the previous version. I have some sample shapes laid out. I'm going to walk through a couple of examples showing the previous version of the Weld tool in the old Design Space and how the Weld tool works in the new version of Design Space. My first example, I have two shapes overlapping. So I'm going to select those two shapes. So I've got both the circle and the rectangle selected, and I can tell in my layers over to the side. And then I'm just going to come and weld. Now it made a new shape and took on the color of the topmost layer. The second example is when two shapes overlap entirely. So here I have the circle inside the square, and I'm going to select those two and come over and do weld. And it punched the circle out and took on the color of the topmost layer. And the circle's gone. This is just a single shape now with the circle punched out of the rectangle. And here are my examples in the new version of Design Space. Let's go through our first example again. Here I have the two shapes overlapping, and I'm going to select those two shapes and do weld. For overlapping shapes, the behavior is very similar to the previous version. The only difference is it took on the color of the background shape instead of the foremost shape. In the previous version, it took on the color of the circle which was on top, but in this version, it took on the color of the rectangle which was on the bottom. Now, in the current version of Design Space, I have two shapes overlapping, and I'm going to select those and do weld. Here's where you start to see the big differences. Welding the two shapes together, the circle's gone. It just got absorbed into the larger shape. So in this case, it is a true weld, where it took the shapes and made a new shape where they overlapped. In this case, since they overlapped entirely, the circle just disappeared. But what if you want to punch the shape out? Well, that's where the new slice tool comes in. So here's a third example in the new design space. I've selected my circle and rectangle again, and now there's a new tool on the layers called Slice. If I click that, it punches the circle out of the rectangle. But instead of just disappearing, the circle was still there. This is great because now maybe I wanted to do some kind of dimensional work, or I'm going to use pop dots to kind of raise the circle out to give it some dimension, and I don't have to then create another circle that size. Now I have the two pieces, and I can cut them out of the same piece of paper, and I'll know that they'll fit perfectly together. If I wanted it like the old style, I don't have to keep the circle. I can just come over on the layers and delete it. Then I have that circle punched out of the rectangle, just like the old version of Weld. That's not all Slice can do though. It's a powerful new feature. So even though they changed welding, you don't really lose out on anything, and you gain a lot more. We shared with you how the Slice tool in the new Cricut Design Space takes over some features that you used to have with the Weld tool, but it can do a lot more. For example, with these two shapes, I can select both of them and then use Slice, and it creates 3 new shapes where the lines crossed each other. This allows you to create new shapes that you've never had before in Cricut Design Space. Before, you might have had to use shapes and weld them together, trying to get that odd, out-of-the-ordinary shape you were looking for your design. Now you can use Slice, and it gives you even more options. We'll have upcoming videos showing you how you can bring the power of the Slice tool to your projects too. Earlier we showed you how there's the new Flatten button in the Layers panel, but you can also unflatten. And a lot of the printables that you can find now in your image library have little hidden surprises with unflatten. So here's our snow angel again. If I click on her to select her, Unflatten becomes available in the Layers panel. So with a click, she's unflattened. Right now, I'm only seeing the original single image piece, but now each item is available for me to unhide. So I can drag them over, and I have all these individual pieces to work with now. So maybe I was looking for a piece where I wanted the mittens, and I couldn't find one I liked, but maybe by unflattening the image, I can now use this mitten shape. Or maybe I don't need the whole snow angel girl for my project. I can just take the pieces I want, like I just want the top part, and get rid of the rest. Then I can select those items and flatten them again, and now I just have the top part of her if that's all I wanted for my project. One thing you can do when you've unflattened an image is fill it with color and make it cuttable. So for example, I have the full snow angel. I can click on her in the layers and click on the thumbnail, and there's an extra checkbox that says fill with a solid color. By checking that, this is now a silhouette that I can turn to cuttable. Going back to the thumbnail, now across the top, the cut, write, and score options are available to me that I didn't have before. So I can switch this over to cut. And now, just like all of our other cuttable images, I can cut this snow angel out of paper instead of doing print then cut. So don't think that the printables are just print then cut. You have all of them available to you if you unflatten them and fill them with color to use as regular cut shapes.
Wow, isn't that cool? And we just touched the surface.
But that's not all that's cool. Cricut has also released some great new materials.
So one of the materials that they've released is the printable vinyl by Cricut. It comes with 10 sheets of printable vinyl that you can use with the new Print Then Cut feature.
And they're also releasing printable sticker paper, and this is really heavy stuff. It's going to be great for all your sticker projects. And in this package, you get 12 sheets. And we have a video of using it for canning lids.
So we want to give you some quick tips that we found when we used the print and cut feature. Make sure your ink is dry on your paper or cardstock before you put it on your Cricut mat. If you try to cut wet paper, it's never a good thing. And some printers can use a lot of ink on the paper.
Another thing we found is that glossy paper doesn't necessarily work too well with the registration cuts.
Right.
We have a workaround that we found in our testing that we're going to share in one of our upcoming videos for working with glossy paper.
So we would like to announce right here, right now, that Cricut has generously given us a Cricut Explore to give away to one of our viewers. In addition to the Explorer, you'll get a pack of vinyl and a pack of printable labels. We're not quite sure how we're going to be giving it away, but one of our lucky viewers will be the recipient of a Cricut Explore Print Then Cut bundle.
So subscribe to our channel using our little icon up in the corner so you don't miss out when we make our announcement.
We have a whole playlist on YouTube of all our Print Then Cut videos. In addition to just our Print Then Cut videos, we've partnered with Melody Lane Designs, and her videos will be in our playlist as well.
And she's doing the same thing. So if you're watching one of our playlists, you'll get to see a whole range of experiences with Print Then Cut.
And as we come out with more videos, they'll be added to the playlist. So make sure you subscribe and check back often. So, until next Tuesday, or probably 5 minutes because we have a whole bunch of Print Then Cut videos coming out today, we'll talk to you later. Bye.
Bye. Clicking on the thumbnail in the It's kind of funny, this might not have been the best image to choose for the demonstration, because even though she's laying down to do a snow angel in the snow, as she's going in and out of the Cricut machine, it looks like I'm torturing a gingerbread doll.
Gonna die. And we'd like to clear my throat.